soon as I set it up, I know that I am multiplying that and dividing by that. To me, this is the simplest way to do that. Now, on page 184, I think it is, they explain all kinds of ways to figure it out. But for me, this works because I'm always wondering, do I divide or do I multiply? What do I divide by? What do I multiply? This spells it out for me. Once I have it set up, I know what to multiply and I know what to divide by. So in this case, again, I have 8 divided by 24, or 8 divided by 24. Either way. This way I know 8 goes into 8, right? And 8 goes into 24. It's a third. Eight goes, 24 goes into 80. It's going to be 3. It's going to be 3 again. I'm going to keep getting 8. I'm going to keep bringing down 0. It's going to keep being 3. That's why you remember. So I got 8 left here. I'd stop it after 2. My 8. I have 8 left out of 24. The remainder is always the numerator. The divisor is always the denominator when you want to stop a division problem. And that would reduce to decimal point 33 1/3, which is the decimal for 1/3. Back a couple of chapters ago, I said you need to memorize that. You ought to know that 1/3 equals decimal point 33 1/3 as a decimal, and that decimal point 33 1/3 as a decimal is equal to 1/3 as a fraction. Okay? So in this case, I probably would have done the fraction because the decimal repeats. The fraction makes it stop right there. Okay? So 8 hours would equal 1/3 of a day. That's what that answer would be. Not a whole day, but you can always express a larger thing, the smaller thing as a fraction of a bigger thing. You know, you're one student, but if I say, what are you, if I wanted to say the class, you would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1/9 of the class, you see. One day, if they say express your answer as a week, if I had 1 day was my answer, I'd have to say 1/7 week, you see. Is 1 out of the 7 that it takes to make a week. Anything smaller can always be, you know, we say we have 8 ounces or 1/2 pound. You see, if I wanted to express ounces as a fraction of a pound, you know, you may get 8 ounces for your answer, but they'll ask you how many pounds. Well, 8 ounces is 1/2 pound. It is 8 of the 16 that it takes to make the whole pound, so it's 1/2 pound. But that's why you need to know how many it takes to make the whole. You can figure out what fraction of it you have. Look at number 2. 40 minutes is how many hours? You guys figure that out. 40 minutes, how many hours? We're on page 185. What is it?
I got 2/3 of an hour.
That's correct. 2/3. Keep working until you get there. You know, because you know that 60 minutes in 1 hour, you have 40 divided by 60, right?
On all the problems, you can, you don't have to always do decimal. You could go to fraction, just reduce it to. So I don't have to always.
Make it easier a lot of times because it's a decimal. You're going to get 0.66 2/3. Is what your answer is going to be. But as a fraction, it would just be 2/3. You wouldn't have all this extra stuff, so. But either answer would be accepted. The thing is, if it's multiple choice, you may work it out as a fraction, and the answer might be as a decimal, so that's why you need to know that 2/3 and 0.66 and 2/3 are the same thing. Because you may work it out as a fraction, they may give the decimal answer as a choice. Or you may work it out as a decimal, and they give the fraction answer as a choice. So you need to know 50 cents, half a dollar. Everybody knows that. You see what I mean? People know that, it's the same thing. 75 cents, 3/4 of a dollar, 3/4, you see. People know that. You need to be able to change between the two. Because you had, it was what, minutes and hours? And we knew that there's 60 and 1, so if you have 40, how many? And you saw that it's 40 divided by 60, or 40 divided by 60. You know, so either way, you're gonna get the same thing. 20 goes in there and 20 goes in there. Or you're gonna say it goes in there 6 times, which will give you 36. You're gonna keep getting that 400 to go back into it. You're gonna get another 6. You're gonna get 36. Keep bringing it down. You're gonna get another one. So you would stop it here at the 40. You still ended up with that 40 over 60 to deal with. But it's gonna be 0.66 and 2/3 as a decimal. So I would always probably do it as a fraction first, because it's typically, unless you get some big weird number that you may not be able to find something to go into both of them evenly, then you might do a decimal, but either way, doesn't matter. 12 ounces is how many pounds? Now another thing you can figure out without doing that whole proportion, now that you know, if you say 12 ounces, you will say 12 ounces is 12 of the 16 that it takes to make the whole thing, you see. Then reduce it. 4 goes in there and 4 goes in there. So it's 3/4 of a pound. If you divided 16 into 12, you're gonna end up with 0.75. Now that you know that's what's going to always happen, it's 12 of the 16. So like 9 inches, 9 inches is 9 of the how many that it takes to make a foot? 12. 9 of the 12. So it's 9/12 of a foot, which reduces then to 3/4. Or if you divided 12 into 9, you're going to get the 0.75 again. So 5 days would be what part of a week? As a fraction? 5/7. 5 days would be 5/7 week. 5 divided by 7. Okay? 3 pounds in number 7 would give you how many ounces then? How many ounces in 1 pound? So how many ounces would be in 3 pounds? 48, 16 times the 3, you see? Once you understand what you're doing, you can figure it out all kinds of ways. You don't have to always do a proportion. You don't have to, sometimes when the numbers are bigger, that proportion is easy, or sometimes when you can't decide if I'm gonna have to multiply or divide, set it up as a proportion and you can see what's gonna be multiplied and what's gonna be divided. But if you think it through a lot of times, it'll just make sense to you. 4 feet would give you how many inches? Well, you know there's how many inches in every foot? 12. So if I had 4 feet, I'd have 12 inches 4 times, right?
48.
Or 48, you see. So it's all about knowing how many makes 1. So that you will need to memorize.
I gotta go, but
Okay.
what time do you normally get here tomorrow so I can call you?
10. Let's look at number 11. Look at some of the story problems. Oh, before that, let's look at number 10. 1.5 miles would give you how many feet? How would you figure that out? How many feet in a mile? Feet in a mile.
Oh.
How many? 5,280. So in a mile and a half, you'd have 5,280 plus what? Half of 5,280. You could figure it that way. Or you could say 5,280 times 1.5. Or times 1.5. And you would get your answer as well. But all kinds of ways, again, knowing how many makes one, you can figure out the rest. Number 11 says a group of neighbors cooked 130 quarts of tomatoes. Now you gotta figure that. You can figure a quart of tomatoes. You've all probably seen quart jars, canning jars. Your mom, your grandmama, somebody had a jar. Else you saw your redneck uncle drinking out of one, drinking moonshine. They use mason, those big quart mason jars too. But you can picture that 130 is how many they cooked. They wanted to can them in gallon jars. The question is, how many gallon jars did they need for canning? So you picture 130 quarts of tomatoes. How many quarts they have to take out for each gallon jar? 4. So you need to know how many 4s are in there, right? Because for every 4 quarts you have, you need another gallon jar. So figure that out and tell me the answer to the question, how many gallon jars would they need?
32.
How many?
33.
Because your answer was what?
How many gallons?
And so you had 32 point something, right? If you had some left over, you'd have to have another. See, I just told a young lady this morning who's going to be testing, and she has taken that official practice test for math. I think this is her last shot at it. And she says, I'm ready, I know I'm ready. If I study anymore, my head's gonna burst. I said, you know,